Wendy, I want to ask you a question. We start out.
Yeah.
Would you join ISIS? And if you wouldn't, why would young girls want to join ISIS?
Don't these young girls know what ISIS does to young girls?
Yeah.
Hello, wake up. This is very frightening that young girls are joining ISIS.
Well, the FBI is investigating 3 teenage girls from Colorado who, guess what? They're on the way to Syria to join the jihadis. It's just another example of groups like ISIS using the internet to recruit young people.
Authorities nabbed the girls in Germany, and now they're back with their families. Caitlin Burke has the story.
3 American teenagers, 2 sisters ages 15 and 17, and their 16-year-old friend. So young, authorities won't identify them, but they're originally from Somalia and Sudan. The evidence gathered so far makes it clear they were headed to Syria to pledge allegiance to ISIS.
It's very important that they come to this place here.
Propaganda videos like these allegedly lured the girls away from their friends and family in Denver, sending them instead on a mission to join terrorists in Syria.
We have houses, we have security.
ISIS is well known for their global media campaign, using the tools and techniques of the West, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, to attract a new generation of recruits.
Its public messaging and social media is as slick and as effective as any I've ever seen from a terrorist organization.
This is just the latest case of ISIS recruiting Western girls. Just last month, a 19-year-old Muslim convert named Shannon Conley pleaded guilty after making plans to join ISIS in Syria. She had planned to marry an ISIS terrorist after meeting him online. And officials say there have been other cases of high school-aged kids trying to get to Syria that haven't been made public, all a part of a new global trend of disaffected youth being radicalized.
In the case of the 3 American teenagers, the FBI is still investigating whether they had overseas contacts and if radicals paid for their trip. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Well, officials have worried that converts to Islam could launch terrorist attacks in Europe and here in North America. And now that's just what happened in Canada. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. Here's John.
Pat, that's right. The Islamic State has urged supporters to carry out attacks against Western countries, and a young convert to Islam did just that when he attacked 2 soldiers in Canada with his car, killing one of them. Canadian authorities are calling it an act of terrorism.
What took place yesterday is clearly linked to a terrorist ideology.
Police say the suspect, 25-year-old Martin Couture-Rouleau, sat in his car outside a Veterans Support Center for at least 2 hours before hitting the 2 Canadian soldiers and leaving the scene. When police caught him a few miles away, they shot and killed him after he waved a knife at them. Authorities had recently seized his passport. He was one of 90 suspected extremists in Canada who plan to join the fighting overseas or who've come back to Canada after being radicalized. And Pat, shockingly, he was questioned as recently as 2 weeks ago by authorities.
You know, John, you ask yourself, what is motivating those people? They live in a wonderful country. Canada is a wonderful country. The United States is a wonderful country. And yet these young people have this rage, and they're such prey to these Islamic terrorists. And again, you ask yourself, what motivates these people to want to kill and to destroy? Well, the promise is very simple. The promise is laid forth in the Quran that says, you die in jihad against the enemy, against the infidel, and you will go to paradise. You will bypass heaven. You'll go to paradise, and you'll get 72 virgins, and you'll get all this wonderful pleasure. It's all a lie, but they believe it. And they think life here isn't all that good. I don't like my parents. My parents told me I'm grounded, and so I'm going to go and kill some people. To understand the thing, you need this book. You need to understand what the motivation of these people is. This is called Islam, Religion of Peace or War. We'll send it to you free. It was written by Islamic people. At least it was edited and vetted by people who are experts in Arabic and Islamic doctrine. It talks about Muhammad, where he came from, what he believed, what so-called revelation he had, and what he says. And then it also talks about the doctrine that says that if some parts of what he said don't square with what else he said, and so therefore the early part is done away with and the new part takes precedence. You'll find it very interesting, and we'll give it to you free, so please ask for it. John?
Pat, pastors across the nation and around the world are sending a strong message to the mayor of Houston after the city subpoenaed sermons and various private communications in a legal battle over Houston's anti-gay discrimination ordinance. So now pastors are sending their sermons along with Bibles to Anise Parker, the city's first openly gay mayor. The effort is spearheaded by former Republican presidential candidate Mike Huckabee and influential Christian author Eric Metaxas. Metaxas tells CBN's David Brody that, quote, "Never in our history has religious freedom been so brazenly defied. A bold red line has been crossed." The Houston mayor's inexcusable demand to see the sermons of pastors is an outrageous and shocking affront to all Americans and to liberty itself. If the American church does not rise up and stand against this, there is no American church. Sources tell CBN News pastors from Canada, Australia, and Germany are also sending sermons and Bibles. You can find more on this story by checking out the Brody File at cbnnews.com. Pat?
I heard the other day something that was very cogent. You know, there's one thing to want to persuade somebody to believe like you do. That's what Christianity is about, to bring the gospel message, say this is good news, and we'd like you to accept it. That's one thing. There's something else to take the arm of the government to force somebody to do something that is against, is contrary to their religion. And that's what these homosexuals are trying to do. They're trying to force people who are Christians to marry them or else face jail, to make cakes honoring them or else go to jail, and give their servants over and divulge their innermost thoughts or go to jail. Now, that's the kind of thing we're dealing with. These people are terrorists, they're radicals, and they're extremists. No Christian in his right mind would ever try to enforce somebody against their belief or else suffer jail. Now, they did that during the Inquisition. It was horrible. It was a black mark on our history. But it isn't being done now. There's no Christian group I know of anywhere in the world that would force somebody to do something contrary to their deep-held religious beliefs or else face criminal penalties. But that's what the homosexuals are trying to do here in America, and I think it's time pastors stand up and fight this monstrous thing. I mean, if the gays want to go out and do their gay sex, that's one thing, but if they want to force you to accept it and solemnify it by marriage, then that's a different matter, and it's an infringement on people's religious beliefs. And what's being done in Houston is the woman they elected is a homosexual. She's a lesbian, and that's her. She's trying to force pastors to conform to her beliefs. It's wrong. John.
Pat, archaeologists in Jerusalem have discovered a large stone with a rare Latin inscription from the Roman period dating back to 100 years after Jesus. It's the time when the Romans were trying to erase any trace of the Jews from the city. And as John Waggy explains, it may help explain why they rebelled against the Romans nearly 2,000 years ago.
The 2,000-year-old one-ton stone was dedicated to the Roman Emperor Hadrian.
They have preserved enough letters and words that we can figure out the name and the titles of the emperor and by whom the inscription was dedicated, and probably the entire monument was constructed.
The 10th Legion dedicated this arch to Hadrian upon his 14th Tribunicia Potestas. That will be 130 of the Common Era.
The Israel Antiquities Authority discovered the stone during a salvage excavation between a mosque and a church near a busy Jerusalem street. Found in a Byzantine-era site, the ancient stone had been recycled to build a water cistern.
I think it's very significant because it's hard evidence of an official construction project that was carried by the Roman army for the coming of the emperor to the city.
Excavation director Dr. Rina Avner says there's more that the stone does not reveal.
We don't have the new name of Jerusalem that was given by Hadrian, and we don't have the indication of the change of the city's status as a Roman colony.
Hadrian ruled the Roman Empire from 117 to 138 AD. He renamed Jerusalem Aelia Capitolina after his family name and built a temple to Jupiter on the ruins of the second Jewish temple.
It was a policy to Hellenize the land and erase the Jewish past.
The unanswered question is whether Hadrian provoked the Jewish Bar Kokhba revolt from 132 to 136 AD by building pagan temples, or if he built the temples to punish the Jews. The other half of the stone was found nearby more than 100 years ago and is on display in a museum in the Old City. Avner says it's always exciting to find a direct physical connection to the past. John Waggy, CBN News.
Pat, eating walnuts could help keep your brain healthy as you get older because they may help prevent dementia and Alzheimer's. Walnuts contain healthy ingredients like omega-3 fatty acids and antioxidants that are good for your brain. Those are the findings from a study on mice published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Research. The study also found in addition to having better memory, the mice had better learning and motor skills. The mice ate the equivalent of around an ounce of walnuts a day. And Pat, we all know that you eat a healthy amount of nuts in your daily diet.
I want to have a brain like a mouse. We all do. No, seriously. I have to give credit to PBS. PBS has got some good stuff. Not all of it good, but some good. And they had a health feature. This guy was talking about micronutrients found in nuts and berries. And I've found it very persuasive what he said. And it also they taste good. So
you know what's interesting about walnuts? They look like little brains.
They look like they really do. That's
and so I think God was giving us a clue. Eat these, it'll be good for your brain. And I had walnuts today. Already.
I did too.
On my yogurt.
I've already had it along with, so the two of us, that's why we're so brainy. But anyhow, I eat cashews, and I eat walnuts, and I eat
almonds.
Almonds.
Oh, I had dark chocolate covered almonds yesterday.
Well, I have dark chocolate covered nothing in the evening, and that's good for blood pressure. But then you eat blueberries, or I love these. You know, you can get these bags of mixed frozen berries, and they're very good. So it's good. If you want to live long and be healthy, listen to Wendy. She'll give you the word.
North Korea has released American Christian Jeffrey Fowl. The 56-year-old is back in the U.S. after flying out of the communist country Tuesday. The State Department credited Sweden with helping facilitate his release. Fowl was in custody for nearly 6 months on charges of leaving a Bible in a hotel room. 2 other Americans, Kenneth Bay and Matthew Miller, are still imprisoned by the North Korean government. Bay, a Christian tour guide, is serving a 10-year sentence for what Pyongyang calls anti-government activity. He's only served about 2 years of his sentence and is said to be in poor health. The sex services website, Backpage.com, is asking the Washington State Supreme Court to throw out a lawsuit filed by 3 young girls who were sold as prostitutes on the site. Backpage alleges they didn't write the ad, so they're not liable. But the victim's attorney says the website is a willing participant in trafficking because it provides pimps with instructions on how to write ads. The mother of one of the victims says traffickers captured her 15-year-old daughter and sold her for sex using Backpage. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.